Welcome to the deep dive. It feels like every time scientists dig into genetics, the family tree gets, well, completely shaken up.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with birds.
Yeah, today we're basically opening up the avian family album, and let's just say genomic sequencing has revealed some really shocking connections, things you just never guess by looking.
It's like finding out your quiet cousin is secretly related to rock royalty or something.
Exactly. So we're mapping out this modern avian dynasty, Neorniths they're called, looking at their dinosaur roots, and honestly, some of the most bizarre, jaw-dropping adaptations out there.
And it's more than just a family tree, right? It's like we've got the evolutionary blueprint now. Our goal today is to really synthesize the latest stuff, the genomic studies, the fossil
I'm
find.
gonna move past just that looks like a duck.
Right. We want to get at those like nuggets of knowledge, the genetic switches, the deep time connections that completely redefine how we see these creatures, how they came to be everywhere.
And the sheer scale of it is, well, that's why we call this a deep dive. This unified tree we're looking at, it covers over 10,000 species, 10,824 to be exact.
It's massive. And that gives us this incredible backbone. It lets us understand the timing and the pathways of how birds diversified over millions and millions of years.
So it's not just who's related to who, but when they split off.
Precisely. This time-scaled map shows us the temporal splits. We can see when a certain trait, maybe losing flight, got locked in genetically, and how that influenced who their closest relatives are today.
And often that genetic story, it clashes pretty hard with the old ways of classifying based on just anatomy, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Sometimes it doesn't just disagree. It tells a completely new and honestly a much clearer story.
Okay, so let's dive into this modern family tree, the Neornithes. Where do we even start? Maybe at the base. With the ones that don't quite fit the typical bird image.
Yeah, let's start with the most ancient branch, the Paleognathai. This is that classic group of mostly flightless birds. Ostriches in Africa, emus and cassowaries down in Australasia, rheas in South America, kiwis.
The big runners.
Exactly. But the real curveball in that group is the tinamou from South America because they can fly. Sort of.
The flying relative of the ostrich. Yeah, I love that little contradiction. And they all share something structural, right? Something about flight mechanics.
Spot on. It's the sternum, the breastbone. Paleognaths have a flat breastbone. That's why they're often called ratites from rates, like a raft.
Oh, okay.
See, flying birds need this huge anchor point for their flight muscles, the pectorals. That's the keel, the carina, this deep ridge down the middle of the breastbone.
Right, gives the muscle something to pull against.
Exactly. But ratites have a flat sternum. It limits how big those muscles can get, how well they can anchor. So it basically rules out powerful, sustained flight.
So it's not like they lost flight recently. Their lineage just never developed that heavy-duty flight architecture after they split off super early.
Pretty much. And the genetics confirms this clade is really tightly defined. We see these specific sister group pairings that line up beautifully with how the continents drifted apart.
Like Gondwana breaking up.
Precisely. Ostriches and rheas, Africa and South America, they're super close relatives. And then emus and cassowaries, Australasia, form another tight pair. Their distribution across these now separate continents, it just highlights how incredibly old this genetic split is.
Wow. Okay, moving up the tree a bit, we hit the next major ancient branch, Ancestry. This is the one that always surprises me, the land-water link.
Yeah, the landfowl, chickens, turkeys, pheasants teamed up with waterfowl ducks, geese, swans, a really tight alliance.
It seems so unlikely.
Morphologically, yeah. But genetically, they're solid. They diverged maybe about 80 million years ago, and they share this incredibly successful reproductive strategy, precocial young.
Meaning the chicks are basically ready to run around right after hatching?
Exactly. Eyes open, covered in down, walking, feeding, even swimming almost immediately. Mobile little fluff balls.
It must take a huge investment in the egg itself, though, right?
Yeah,
Before it even hatches.
that's the trade-off. Precociality means packing the egg with massive amounts of yolk. The mother invests heavily before the chick hatches.
As opposed to, say, songbirds.
Right. Many of the later neowaves have altricial young, think naked, helpless baby birds. Much less yolk needed up front, but they demand intense parental care after hatching. Ancestry picked the early investment strategy, and it's clearly worked for a very, very long time.
And even within this group, you get some real evolutionary oddballs pushing that strategy to the limit.
Oh, yeah. Look at the megapodes. They are like the ultimate hands-off parents. They branched off really early in this lineage.
And they don't incubate their own eggs.
Nope. They basically outsource it to the environment. They use heat from piles of rotting vegetation, sun-warmed sand, even volcanic vents. They just bury the eggs and let nature do the work. No parental brooding at all.
A self-regulating compost heap incubator. That's genius. And what about the screamers? They link to waterfowl, you said.
Yeah, genetically they're tied to ducks and geese, but they look quite different. Big, heavy-bodied birds, partially webbed feet. And they have this pretty intimidating defense mechanism.
Ooh.
Razor-sharp spurs right at the bend of their wings. They use them like weapons against rivals or predators.
Spurs. Okay, that's unexpected. So you've got the ancient flightless crew, the Paleognathae, and this super successful landwater group, the Gallimancerae. That leaves pretty much everything else.
Pretty much. Neovies, that's over 95% of all living bird species. And this is where the genetic data really starts, reshuffling the deck in surprising ways.
And the biggest shocker is probably the Mariandronese, right?
Oh, definitely. Based purely on how they look, you'd never, ever put them together. But this clade genetically links flamingos and grebes.
Okay, wait. Flamingos pink, long legs, filter feeding in salt marshes. Grebes, sleek, black and white, diving birds on freshwater lakes.
Yeah.
What on earth could they possibly share genetically that overrides those massive differences?
It's not about the final physical product. It's about the underlying genetic toolkit, the regulatory genes. Yes, they look incredibly different as adults. That's a classic example of morphology being shaped by their niches, convergent evolution for leg length or neck length.
It's the habitat drove the appearance.
Exactly. But the genomics, it reveals these deep similarities in their developmental blueprints. Genes controlling how the skeleton forms, how plumage patterns develop. Their last common ancestor lived a long time ago, but that genetic echo is still there, loud and clear.
Huh. It really drives home that looks can be deceiving in evolution. Genetics tells the deeper story.
It's a powerful reminder, yeah. Habitat shapes the outside much faster than the core programming changes.
Right. It's the operating system, not the desktop wallpaper. Okay, moving on from those aquatic surprises, we get into the higher land birds, the brainiacs.
Yeah, we see these two huge rapid radiations happening almost in parallel. First, you've got astrolabes. And what's fascinating here is that this group genetically links falcons very closely with parrots and songbirds.
Falcons and parrots. That doesn't seem intuitive either.
It's not about anatomy again. It seems to be linked by shared traits like high metabolisms and, importantly, advanced cognitive abilities. These groups seem to have radiated across the southern land masses, perhaps spurred by climate shifts.
No, high-performance birds, both physically and mentally. The ones that solve problems quickly.
You could put it that way, yeah. Faster processing power, maybe, supported by higher baseline energy use. And then you have the other massive group, teleraves, often seen as, like, the pinnacle of avian problem solving.
Okay, who's in that club?
This is where you find eagles, hawks, the New World vultures, corvids, so crows, ravens, jays, and the huge order of passerines, the perching birds.
Wow, okay, so if astrolabes are the fast thinkers, teleraves are maybe the strategic planners, the architects.
Kind of, yeah. And it's important to note, older classifications we used to use, like metavase and coronavase, they've basically been dissolved by the genetic data. They're now integrated into these bigger parallel radiations.
Why did those old groups exist then? What were they based on?
Usually anatomical details like the structure of the palate or the arrangement of toe tendons. But the diversification of neovaes happened so fast, relatively speaking, that lots of different body plans evolved concurrently. This led to a lot of convergent evolution, similar solutions popping up independently, which really confused early taxonomists relying only on morphology.
That rapid burst explains why evolution sometimes hits on the same idea multiple times, even in groups that aren't that closely related.
Absolutely. Like echolocation. It's this incredibly complex sensory adaptation, right? Navigating using sound.
Yeah, bats do it.
Right. But among birds, it popped up independently in swifts, which are part of this big Neoaves radiation, and in oil birds, which are their own distinct ancient lineage.
Whoa. So two totally separate bird groups evolved sonar.
Yeah. The pressure of needing to navigate in pitch-black caves selected for the exact same complex solution, even though their common ancestor was millions and millions of years ago and definitely didn't echolocate. It's just a stunning example of parallel evolution.
Okay, one last thing to wrap up the modern tree.
Yeah.
How do these groups actually spread across the globe, like colonizing whole continents multiple times?
Yeah, the dynamics of dispersal are fascinating. The family Certhioidea that includes tree creepers and wrens is a great case study.
Where did they start out?
They originated over in Eurasia, but the genomic timeline shows they didn't just make one trip across to North America. They successfully dispersed and established populations there at least 5 separate times.
5 times. Over how long?
Over about a 20 million year period.
Wow. So the wrens and tree creepers we see in North America aren't from just one ancestral invasion. It was like waves of colonization.
Exactly. It shows that diversification isn't always a single founder event. It can be this repeated process of movement, establishment, and adaptation, really shaping the mix of species we see today.
All right, so we've got a handle on the modern family tree. But to really get it, we need to jump back, way back, to the dinosaur roots.
Absolutely. We have to establish where birds came from. And it's not just dinosaurs broadly, but specifically from parrots. This is a group within the theropods, the mostly meat-eating dinosaurs.
And parros includes
Groups like the dromaeosaurids, think velociraptor and troodontids. These were generally small, nimble, feathered hunters running around about 165 million years ago, the direct ancestors.
the raptor lineage. But the key adaptations for being bird-like started even earlier, didn't they? Things that weren't necessarily for flight initially.
Oh, much earlier. You can trace some core features back to the Coelurosauria. This is a bigger group of theropods that includes tyrannosaur relatives. We're talking way back, like 230 million years ago in the Triassic.
And what key pre-adaptation came from them?
Hollow bones. Pneumatized bones filled with air spaces, absolutely crucial for making a large body light enough for eventual flight.
So the ancestors of T-Rex were accidentally providing the lightweight frame for future hummingbirds.
That's wild. And feathers came before flight too, right?
Definitely. Feathers almost certainly evolved first for insulation, keeping these active dinosaurs warm, and then for display. We see amazing evidence of this in fossils like Anchiornis huxley,
How old is that one?
about 155 million years ago, and studies show it had these really striking multicolored feathers, clearly for visual signaling, not powered flight.
And behavior evolved early, too, like parental care.
Yeah, we see that in related dinosaur groups. Fossils of oviraptorosaurs like Pseudopodi have been found literally sitting on nests brooding their eggs just like modern birds. So those carrying instincts were already present long before true birds took off.
Okay, so let's look at the very first creatures we might call basal avians, the prototypes. Around 160 million years ago, these are the real bridge forms.
Right. Take Aurornis sudi from China. It's considered one of the most basal, one of the earliest on the bird line after the split from other paravs.
What did it look like? Well, it had relatively long legs, suggesting it was still primarily a runner, and its feathers were pretty basic, probably only good for short hops or gliding bursts, not sustained flight. It was sort of experimenting with getting airborne.
And you mentioned another one from around the same time, Xiaotingi.
Yeah, Xiaotingia zengi, also about 160 million years old. It shows a slightly different path. It had a sturdier skull, quite pronounced curved claws.
More predatory.
Exactly. Looks like it was well adapted for climbing and hunting, but again, feathered. It's a fantastic transitional fossil because it perfectly blends these dinosaurian predatory features with early avian ones, right on that cusp.
And then comes the icon, the one everyone learned about in school, Archaeopteryx.
Ah, yes, Archaeopteryx, from the late Jurassic in Bavaria, Germany. About 150 million years old. For decades, it was the undisputed earliest bird. And it's magnificent because it shows that mix so clearly.
What's the mix?
It had clear, modern-looking asymmetrical flight feathers, proper wings, but it also had a jaw full of sharp teeth, 3 clawed fingers sticking out of its wings, and a long, bony reptilian tail.
The classic missing link. Half reptile, half bird.
Exactly. It proved that flight evolved while many of those ancestral reptilian traits were still very much present.
The science marches on. Archaeopteryx isn't necessarily the sole first bird anymore, is it?
The picture's getting more complex,
Yeah.
and that's exciting. There's a more recent discovery, Bamminornis zangensis.
Okay.
It's also from that 150 million year time frame. It was tiny, about the size of a quail, and feathered. And it seems to challenge Archaeopteryx as potentially being an even earlier experiment in basic flight.
How so?
It also shows signs of asymmetrical feathers, which are crucial for generating lift. It suggests that this key innovation wasn't just a one-off in Archaeopteryx. It might have been appearing in multiple parallel lineages around the same time.
So the late Jurassic, early Cretaceous was this hotbed of evolutionary experimentation with flight.
It seems like it. A period of intense, rapid trials for getting off the ground.
So once they started getting airborne, the focus maybe shifted from just flying to refining behaviors associated with being a bird.
That's a good way to put it. Look at Jahalarnus from about 120, 125 million years ago.
What was special about it?
It had this long, bony tail like Archaeopteryx, but at the very end, it had a fan of feathers. Suggests the tail was becoming important for signaling, for display, communication.
Ah, interesting.
And its beak structure shows adaptations for eating seeds. A major dietary shift towards plants was happening early on.
And what about perching? Being able to sit securely on a branch seems like a huge advantage.
Absolutely critical for exploiting trees, escaping ground predators, and that's where Confuciusornis sanctus comes in, around 125 million years ago.
What do we know about it?
We have hundreds of fossils of Confuciusornis. It's incredibly well documented, and they clearly show specialized feet adapted for perching. They had modern-looking feathers too, but still on a fairly archaic body, they didn't have that deep keel for powerful flight muscles yet.
So perching came before powerful flight was perfected.
Fascinating. Okay, fast forward a bit. We get close to the big extinction event and the wonder chicken.
Yes, Asteriornis. The fossil find is just. The timing is incredible.
Yeah, and was it dated?
66.7 million years ago. That's literally just before the Chicxulub asteroid hit, right on the cusp of the KPG extinction event.
And what was it like?
Its skull shows a mix of features, but it's remarkably close to modern birds, specifically related to the ancestors of the Gallimancerae, the chicken and duck group.
So a near-modern bird existed right before the asteroid wiped out the big dinosaurs.
Exactly. And the fact that this small, probably ground-dwelling bird, likely with precocial young, survived that cataclysm. It basically provided the genetic starting point for almost all the bird diversity we see today. It's the survivor blueprint.
Incredible. And speaking of survivors, some modern birds seem almost unchanged from their ancient relatives.
Some lineages are remarkably stable. The sandhill crane is a prime example. We have fossils that look essentially identical to modern sandhill cranes dating back 10 million years. Wow. Talk about a successful design.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But other lineages took different paths after the extinction. Some became giants, like Heracles inexpectatus.
A giant parrot.
Yeah, from New Zealand about 19 million years ago. A parrot relative that stood maybe 3 feet tall. It shows that even groups we think of as modern, like parrots, have deep roots stretching back towards the dinosaur survivors, and they could evolve to enormous sizes on islands.
Okay, before we move into the really weird modern stuff, we should probably touch on Proto-Avis. It's a controversial one.
Ah, yes, Proto-Avis. It's worth mentioning because it highlights how science scrutinizes evidence. It was claimed to be a bird fossil from Texas, dated to 225 million years ago.
That would push bird origins back massively, way into the Triassic.
By about 75 million years before Archaeopteryx, it would completely rewrite the timeline.
But the scientific community mostly rejects it.
Overwhelmingly, yes. The main issues are that the fossil material is extremely fragmentary, very poorly preserved. Many paleontologists think it's likely a jumble of bones from several different kinds of small reptiles, not a single bird ancestor. And frankly, its proposed complexity just doesn't fit with anything else we know about reptile and dinosaur evolution during the Triassic.
So it's a good reminder that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly. And Proto-Avis just doesn't meet that bar based on what's been found so far.
Okay, now for the part I've been waiting for. The evolutionary eccentrics. The birds where nature just seemed to, I don't know, get really creative. Let's start with the Hoatzin, the one that seems part bird, part dinosaur, part cow.
The Hoatzin is just an evolutionary puzzle box. You mentioned the dinosaur throwback. The chicks have these 2 functional claws on their wings.
Seriously, claws on their wings.
Yeah, like little grappling hooks. They use them to climb around in the branches of the mangroves and swamps where they live. If they fall out of the nest, they can climb back up.
That's amazing. A clear link to their reptilian past. But the adult adaptation is the really weird one, right? The digestion.
That's the cow part. They're the only bird known to digest leaves using bacterial fermentation in an enlarged crop and lower esophagus, basically. A foregut fermentation system similar to what cows do in their rumen.
So they're eating tough leaves and fermenting them up front.
Exactly. It's a very slow, inefficient process compared to how most birds digest, and it has consequences.
Like what?
Well, because they rely on this slow-burn energy source, they can't develop the huge, powerful flight muscles needed for quick escapes. They're clumsy flyers, mostly glide short distances.
So the chicks' climbing claws make sense then. If the adults are slow and can't fly well, the chicks need a way to get back to safety if they fall.
Precisely. The low-energy diet constrains the adult's flight ability, which in turn makes the ancestral climbing claws still useful for the young. It all connects. And there's one more thing about that digestion.
What's that?
The fermentation process produces a lot of methane and other volatile compounds. It makes the birds smell, well, pretty foul, like manure.
So they stink. As a defense, maybe.
It likely functions as a chemical defense, yeah.
Predators might just be put off by the smell, so they're climbers, fermenters, and stink bombs. Truly unique.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow. What about other weird digestive strategies? Grebes eating feathers.
Yeah, pie-billed grebes and others have this really strange habit. They deliberately swallow large amounts of their own feathers.
My on earth would they do that?
The feathers form this matted plug or lining in their stomach. They eat a lot of fish, often whole, including sharp buttons. The feather ball seems to act like a filter, trapping the bones and protecting the stomach lining. They can then compress this plug and regurgitate the indigestible bits safely.
A built-in strainer and safety liner?
Tell me.
Clever. And they have that cool way of disappearing underwater too, right? Not like a duck diving. Right. They're masters of stealth. Instead of a sudden dive, they can slowly and silently submerge. They do it by adjusting their buoyancy. They compress their feathers to expel trapped air and maybe adjust air sacs too, allowing them to just sink vertically beneath the surface without a ripple.
Very cool. Okay, from stealth swimmers to butchers. Tell me about the northern shrike.
The butcher bird. Shrikes are predatory songbirds, but they lack the powerful talons of a hawk or eagle.
So how do they handle larger prey like mice or big insects?
They improvise, gruesomely, but effectively. They impale their prey on sharp objects, thorns, barbed wire fences, sharp twigs.
They skewer their food.
Yeah, this creates a larder or cache. It holds the prey steady while they tear off pieces with their hooked beak. And there's a bonus. If they catch certain insects that are toxic, impaling them and leaving them for a while can allow the toxins to break down before they eat them.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
morbidly clever, resourceful. Okay, contrast that sort of tool-use workaround with a bird that has highly specialized built-in tools, like the black skimmer.
The skimmer is incredible, purely specialized for how it feeds. Its lower mandible, the bottom part of the bill, is significantly longer than the upper one. It's thin, like a blade.
And how do they use it?
They fly low, just inches above calm water, with that lower mandible slicing through the surface. As soon as it touches a small fish, S&P, the bill clamps shut. It's hunting by touch.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And they need special eyes for that, right? Flying so close to glaring water.
They do. They have these really unusual pupils. They're vertical slits, like a cat's, but maybe even more compressed. It acts like built-in sunglasses, cutting down the glare off the water surface so they can see what they're doing.
Custom equipment. Okay, some birds hunt alone with specialized gear. Others team up. Harris's hawks are unusual for raptors, aren't they?
Extremely unusual. Most raptors are solitary hunters, but Harris's hawks, especially down in the southwest U.S. and Mexico, hunt cooperatively.
Like a wolf pack?
Kind of. Often family groups work together. They use strategies to flesh out prey, like rabbits from dense brush. One or two might go in, others circle around or wait at escape routes.
That requires communication and coordination.
Absolutely. And they even do this bizarre thing called stacking.
Mhm.
One hawk will literally land on the back or shoulder of another one perched higher up just to get a better view over the landscape. Real teamwork.
Stacking hawks. Okay, that's a new one. And all this cooperation, or even solo hunting, relies on senses we often don't appreciate, like UV vision.
Oh. The UV world birds see is completely hidden from us. Many birds perceive ultraviolet light, and it adds a whole dimension to their world.
How so? What does it help them see?
Things like patterns on feathers that are invisible to us, which might be crucial for mate selection, or subtle differences in the ripeness of berries. Some fruits reflect UV differently when they're ready to eat.
That makes sense. Any hunting applications?
The classic example is the American kestrel. These small falcons often hover hunt over fields, and one way they find rodents is by seeing their urine trails.
Easy. Pea trails.
Yeah.
How?
Rodent urine contains chemicals that strongly absorb UV light or fluoresce under it, depending on the compounds. So against the background vegetation, which reflects UV differently, the rodent's habitual pathways and scent marks literally glow or stand out as dark trails when viewed in the UV spectrum.
They're following glowing pea trails from the sky. That is an evolutionary cheat code. Unbelievable.
Okay, let's shift to courtship and social complexity, deception, and communication. The lyrebird has to be near the top, right?
The superb lyrebird of Australia.
Yeah.
It's the master mimic.
Yeah.
The male's courtship display is just an astonishing acoustic. performance.
What does that involve?
He clears a little stage on the forest floor, fans out his amazing tail feathers, and then produces this incredible stream of mimicry. Not just other bird calls perfectly imitated, but any sound from his environment.
Like what?
Chainsaws, camera shutters clicking, car alarms, fence wire twanging, even human speech sometimes. He weaves it all together into this continuous, complex song to impress the female. The vocal control and memory involved are just staggering. Auditory deception at its finest. What about visual deception, or maybe construction?
Bowerbirds.
Ah, the architects. Bowerbirds take courtship display to a whole new level. The male doesn't build the nest, the female does that later. He builds a bower.
What's a bower?
It can be like an avenue of twigs or a maypole-like structure or a mat. And the key thing is he decorates it meticulously with colorful objects.
Like what?
Shells, berries, flowers, insect skeletons, stones, and famously human objects if they're available. Some species have intense color preferences. One might collect only blue items, another only white or green. The bower isn't shelter. It's purely a stage to show off his taste and diligence to potential mates.
Building literal monuments to attract love. Amazing. Meanwhile, the kakapo in New Zealand has a totally different approach. No construction, more booming.
Right. The cockpo is the world's only flightless parrot, and it's nocturnal. So visual displays are less useful. The males gather at traditional display areas called leks.
And what do they do there? Each male digs out a shallow bowl in the earth, which acts like a natural amplifier. Then he inflates this huge thoracic air sac in his chest and produces this incredibly low-frequency booming call.
How far does it travel?
It can travel for miles on a still night. He'll boom for hours, sometimes interspersed with a higher-pitched chinging call, hoping a female will hear him and trek across the landscape to find him. It's an immense, energetic investment, just sitting there booming night after night.
Wow. Okay. Quick hits on some other amazing displays or oddities. Frigate birds.
Massive inflatable red throat pouch on the males. Looks like a giant balloon when they're displaying.
Blue-footed boobies.
Lifting those incredibly bright blue feet up and down in a slow, strutting dance, showing off the intensity of the blue, which relates to their health.
Sandhill cranes.
That beautiful dancing. Leaping, bowing, spreading their wings, tossing sticks.
Wow.
Reinforces pair bonds.
Superb fairy wrens. Social drama there.
Oh, yeah. They're socially monogamous. Pairs stay together, but genetically. Huge rates of extra pair paternity. Females actively sneak off for dawn rendezvous with males outside their pair bond. Lots of soap opera dynamics.
Okay, finally, let's touch on some physiological extremes and just plain weird habits. The calliope hummingbird. The marathoner.
The smallest bird in North America weighs maybe 3 grams, less than a ping pong ball. Yet it undertakes this epic 5,000-mile migration.
How is that even possible?
Extreme metabolic output. During strenuous flight, its heart rate can exceed 1,200 beats per minute. Its whole system is tuned for maximum efficiency and power-to-weight ratio. It's operating right at the physiological edge.
Unbelievable. And the opposite extreme, cold tolerance. Penguins.
Masters of insulation. It's like quadruple layering. First, incredibly dense feathers that overlap tightly. Second, a thick layer of blubber under the skin. Third, they can control blood flow to extremity.
And fourth,
countercurrent heat exchange. It's brilliant. In their legs and feet, the arteries carrying warm blood down run right next to the veins carrying cold blood back up. Heat transfers directly from the artery to the vein, warming the returning blood before it chills the body core. Minimizes heat loss to the ice or cold water.
clever plumbing. What about anting? Birds rubbing ants on themselves.
Yeah, it's a strange behavior seen in many songbirds, like cardinals. They'll either lie down on an ant hill and let ants crawl over them, or actively pick up ants and rub them onto their feathers.
Why?
The leading theory is self-medication. Ants, especially when agitated, secrete formic acid and other chemicals. Birds seem to be using these substances as a natural insecticide or fungicide to control feather parasites or soothe skin irritation. Chemical treatment, basically.
Using nature's pharmacy. And lastly, those incredible swirling flocks. Murmurations.
Starling murmurations are just breathtaking. Thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of birds moving as one fluid entity in the sky.
How do they do it without crashing?
It seems to be based on simple rules. Stay close to your neighbors, match their speed and direction, but avoid collision. There's no leader. It's emergent behavior from local interactions. And the primary function: predator confusion. It makes it incredibly hard for a hawk or falcon to single out and target one individual bird in that swirling mass. Safety in numbers and complex motion. #tag outro. So if we try to synthesize all of this, wrap our heads around the biggest aha moments from this deep dive.
It really comes down to those hidden connections, right? The genetic truths that often contradict what we just see.
Yeah, like the landfowl and waterfowl being such close cousins. That one still gets me.
Or the flamingos and grebes partnership. Just
Mm.
mind-blowing from a visual perspective. And then the sheer biological, almost absurdity of something like the Hoatzin, the climbing, fermenting, stinky
No.
bird. Yeah, it's like evolution threw everything at the wall with that.
And then you have the physiological extremes, that tiny calliope hummingbird pushing its body to the absolute limit on migration.
While a kestrel is literally seeing invisible trails left by its prey using UV light, it puts our own senses into perspective.
Exactly. And understanding these relationships, the clades, and these incredible specialized adaptations, it really helps explain why birds have been so phenomenally successful, why they've managed to colonize pretty much every habitat on Earth.
They found a niche or evolved a tool for almost everything.
It really did. And that brings us maybe to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over next time you're watching birds.
Oh, what's that?
Well, paleontologists have found these fossil tracks in Lesotho, southern Africa. They date back 215 million years, deep in the Triassic,
Okay.
and they show these distinct bird-like footprints, small, 3 main toes forward, 1 back. But the key thing is the way the toes are splayed suggests an early ability for grasping, maybe climbing in trees, even back then.
215 million years ago, grasping feet.
Potentially. So the provocation is this. Next time you see a common bird doing something simple, maybe a chickadee hanging upside down on a feeder, gripping tightly, or you watch the careful, deliberate way a heron places its feet as it wades,
Yeah.
just consider how much of that precise grip, that calculated step, might actually reflect behaviors that are echoing down through millions, even hundreds of millions of years. Skills honed way back when their ancestors were just tiny, feathered dinosaurs figuring out how to navigate their world.
So the way a bird holds onto a branch today could be linked to behaviors from the dawn of their lineage.
It's possible. Every bird you see is a living dinosaur, a feathered theropod carrying an immense history of evolutionary trial and error and incredible success. And hopefully, after this deep dive, you can appreciate that history just a little bit more.